Gough Whitlam Park, located in Earlwood, Sydney, is a significant public space named in honour of former Australian Prime Minister Gough Whitlam. The park's history reflects its transformation from industrial use to a community recreational area. Now, originally, the land where Gough Whitlam Park now sits was utilised for storing building materials and disposing of sediments from the Cooks River. And in 2009, landscaping was completed, which commemorated the Respect, Unity and Peace mosaic. This mosaic pays tribute to local Aboriginal leaders and depicts elements of the area's Indigenous heritage. But today, the park is utilised mainly for fitness, recreation and of course relaxation. And it's the setting that my guest today, Bim Ricketson, has chosen for his location of inspiration. Welcome to Walking and Talking with Creatives. Bim, can I just say, first of all, thank you so much for doing this.
No worries.
Really appreciate your time. It's been a while since we connected, a long time actually.
Yeah, we just worked out it's, 7 years or something?
7 years, yeah. And we used to kind of work, like I used to work for a company and you were at an agency. Our paths crossed in a form of project-based, right? Event-based.
Yeah, well, we generally had crazy ideas of how to use technology at an event, and you would work out how to make them happen. And we would give you no time, an impossible brief, and you'd work it out.
I was very much used to that.
Yeah.
But talk to me about your day job. What do you do as a day job right now?
Yeah, so I'm consulting executive creative director in the events realm. So I've just restarted as a sort of a freelancer contractor just very recently, which I'm enjoying. So having been kind of at agencies for a number of years, I'm now out again. Instead of just being at one place, at lots of different places. And I'm really enjoying that because every agency is different, every brief is different, their approach is different. I'm meeting a lot of different people and learning from them and the way they approach things. And yeah, it's great. And I can kind of apply everything I've learned and sort of share it with a lot of different clients and briefs.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm sure you can pick and choose, the briefs that you take on, what's in your scope, that kind of thing. Yeah.
What I'm enjoying at the moment is working with friends. Get to a certain point where you have friends that you might have all worked together at one place, and then everyone's kind of gone into other places, but you remain friends with them. And so when you do start working with them again, it's a natural pick up from where you were, and you kind of get to spend more time with them again, but you also get to sort of work with them creatively as well. And yeah, I'm trying to do a wide range of kinds of work because every agency has their expertise.
Yeah. And
you can get stuck on one client or one type of work or one way of thinking. So I'm trying to kind of be completely open to trying all sorts of different things. Which is really exciting, and I think as a creative you've got to keep doing that. You've got to constantly be open to new ways of working, new ways of thinking, working in different groups, and be open to new technology, how to integrate that, learn and teach as well, I suppose.
So talk to me about your creative passion. The point of this kind of series is to understand what people's passions are outside of their work.
I guess my passion that integrates with work, crosses over with it, inspires it sometimes, is all around music. Using music as a soundtrack to do creative work, listening to the creatives who make music and how they approach it and what went into it, their process. Completely different process if you're a trombonist or a musical producer than you're a creative director in events. But there's something in the creative process which you can always draw from, and I always get inspired by. And from there you're like, oh, I haven't listened to that record, or inspired them, and you're off. And I feel like music's like an absolutely endless well of exploration you can go to. There's a whole new genre you haven't heard of, a whole new artist you haven't heard of. So that's kind of always a creative go-to for me. And I also think that music and sound is an essential sense to be played on when you're in your creative kit, when you're coming up with an event. I know if I walk into, it might be an amazing looking event, but the music's crap or boring or off, it doesn't match, the whole mood changes. Or if you walk in and it's the opposite and it's been really finely thought about and it's perfectly aligned to the mood and the colour of the lighting or whatever, how much that can enhance it. So
Okay, interesting. Is there any, it sounds like you're quite eclectic when it comes to music, right? You don't discriminate, I suppose, with all types of genres. Can you give me an example of a genre that you've recently picked up that you didn't think that you would?
you're right, I'm definitely pretty wide-ranging in my interests. I just introduced to a friend the other day who's also widely listened to, a guy called Chili Gonzalez. You should definitely look him up if you haven't. He's a Canadian guy, kind of kooky and weird and classically trained, but kind of got into very experimental. Then he got rapping and it was all a bit weird. But actually he then went back and played piano, and he's done these 3 albums called Solo Piano 1, 2 and 3. And it's like classical music for people who don't like classical music. He's kind of taken all of his kind of pop references and put them into classical, and I find that like a great soundtrack to doing creative work. So yeah, check it out.
Just a quick question, does it have lyrics, or is it just more classic?
Very occasionally he does sing. He's got this very deep, funny voice. They're not my favourites, to be honest.
I find it difficult to focus when I'm listening to music and I'm working at the same time when there's lyrics.
100% with you. Yeah, I cannot have lyrics if I'm working.
So for me, my go-to, like when I'm working from home, is kind of like lo-fi, chill hop. Do you have any like favourites on?
I've got a couple of podcasts that I listen to that they come out every week. They're about 2 hours long, and I know that it's great music and there's almost no words in it, and
Brilliant.
That's my go-to. Yeah.
I'm always looking for new podcasts. Tell me a little bit about the significance of this location. You've chosen Gough Whitlam Park. What inspires you about this?
It's a path that just goes along the river here. It's the Cooks River. It's a running track basically, or a walking path that goes both sides of Cooks River, and it's just a short distance from my house. So I go running here in the morning, and the reason I chose it, I guess, is coming back to the music, put music in my ears, go for a run, try to think about nothing, especially early in the morning. If you've had a brief or you had some creative challenge the day before, your subconscious has kind of thought about it overnight, and I find often in the morning, if you've emptied your mind and you listen to music without lyrics, some ideas or solutions might come to you without even trying. And then by the time you've got back home, not only have you gone for a run, which is good, but you've probably come up with some cool solutions that you wouldn't have come at if you were just sitting at your desk or talking to people or anything. So the running, the music, and then the creativity at a sort of a deeper level is why I come here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's running that gets you being creative, and the music that enhances that, and then obviously the location by the river.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's times to overthink things and sit down and kind of put all the elements together, and then there's times to completely underthink things and almost forget about them and let your subconscious work it out. And often that's the bit that you need free time, you need exercise, you need music, you need a beautiful view, you need time by yourself to get to those kind of like really cool creative solutions.
Totally agree. All right, talk to me about any barriers that you've come across that have stopped you from being creative.
Like every other minute when you're trying to be creative, there's a barrier. So sometimes that's a life barrier. I don't know. Your kids need to go to the shops. Sometimes that's a technology barrier. The internet's not working. You can't quite get what's in your mind out in the software or something.
The software being Adobe software?
Usually, yeah, yep. But the creative blocks are the most common, I suppose. And that's like, okay, I've kind of got an idea or a solution, but it's not quite there yet. Or you've got the best solution you've ever heard of, you showed it to someone and they went, oh, we did that last year. And you've got to go back and you thought you'd solved it. Well, you had solved it, but someone had done it before you. So all of those blocks and that sort of, I don't know, downtime to yourself to think, and then like sharing it with people is actually a great part of the process, because you'll feel deflated when someone tells you, okay, that's not quite there yet for whatever reason. But it actually always forces you to go further and go better once you kind of get over that initial blockage. So I think creative blocks are kind of good things in a way, because they just force you to make better work.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, because you are overcoming that creative block by being more creative.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you have to find a solution. You have to find your way around that problem, which is part of the creative process. So yeah, for sure.
Can you give me an example of something that you maybe weren't used to doing, or a skill that you've picked up that you didn't think that you would get into, something different, I suppose, than your usual day-to-day?
Okay, yeah. I mean, probably everyone's at some level of working out how to use AI, and I'm one of those people. Like the initial novelty of like, oh, I'm going to get GPT chat to write a poem in rhyming slang about a random topic. That kind of novelty wore off. Then the other extreme was like, oh, it's got to do all my work for me. It's going to create this perfect. It's actually somewhere in between, I'm finding, in the creative process of it's almost like a sketch or a scamp or like a first draft or something. And you can use it to almost inspire you to go somewhere else. I think if you go, here's my work and it's developed by AI and that's it, I think that's not the approach in the creative process. The creative process is almost challenging the limits of the technology to pull out some weird stuff that can inspire you to go somewhere else, or to sort of paint a picture of something really loosely of where you're trying to go, whether that's words or imagery or video. But it's not the final product, because you've still got to put in the human creativity and hours to sort of get it to where it needs to be and make it original.
It's almost like the foundations, like the starting off the creative process. Like a lot of customers that I talk to, they're still trying to figure out how to use it, where to use it, the ethical nature of it, that kind of scenarios. It's really interesting to see how they're adapting to that.
Yeah, for me it's one little tool to have in there that's interesting and novel and can get used to some cool places quickly. I dare say, like my kids who are teenagers, they'll have a completely different take on it. What they're using it for now and then what they'll be using it for in the workforce when they get there is going to be miles different from where I'm at, and they'll be just totally native to it. They'll be kind of learning it as they go, like we do. So that's going to be fascinating to see.
Yeah, that actually scares me. Yeah, it really does.
It could be. Yeah.
Yeah, really, we're really at the start of this generative AI kind of process, right? There's all these tools out there that you can use, and all the companies are kind of looking into how they can do it better than other companies. It's just interesting to see how we adapt them and how other companies adapt with that.
And there's the fear always that you're behind.
Oh.
Because something comes out, new feature, new product, comes out every other day, and there's always the fear like, oh, I'm getting left behind, and I have to learn how to do it. I think if the fundamental process that you have, your workflow within the Adobe suite, has always been in this way, whether some AI gets tipped in and brought in here and there isn't going to fundamentally change the way you do the work. It's probably going to improve it a little bit, but you don't need to throw out everything just because it's the hottest new tool that comes out, or there's some new piece of software that everyone's talking about this week.
Go on then, favourite Adobe product?
You can't go past Photoshop. I've been through love affairs with InDesign when I was a magazine art director, and Illustrator was probably my first love, but Photoshop's the OG. I mean, I think I started using it in 1995.
Wow. I was in year 5 then. Is that bad? Is that bad saying that?
Whatever the version is I started with, it was the one where layers were possible, because there were no layers before that. So that was groundbreaking. And then you had to integrate it with Quark Express. If I really want to show my age, that was pre-InDesign. No, I think Photoshop's the game changer, and across kind of any discipline, Photoshop has a place, People are still using it in film as a part of, this extremely high-tech, high-res, kind of incredible outputs. Photoshop still has a place in how they composite the shots and bring together, a visual of how it's going to look and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's the OG and the best.
And I just want to double-click on that point. We talked about AI earlier. Even though Photoshop has elements of generative AI in it, you still need that human element, that human interaction. You
need to know what you're doing. Otherwise, if you just get AI to do it all for you, you've not kind of put your creativity into it. So you need to know how to harness the bit of AI that you are going to use and include it. And I have to say, I'm still a novice in it. I still haven't clicked on all the new features or worked out. But often when I'm trying to work out how to do something, there is an AI feature that's giving me a shortcut to what I used to have to do in 10 steps, so that's cool, and that'll be interesting to see how that just continues to make it all faster and more efficient and stuff.
So Bim, what's next for you?
Probably not knowing what's next, and that's part of the plan, I suppose, if you can call it a plan. I think that is the contractor freelance world that you've got to embrace, and that's like, you're not really the master of what's coming in next or who's going to give you a call and what kind of brief's going to hit you. So what I'm planning to do is to have very little plan and just respond to kind of what comes up and be ready for it and jump in. So that's the beauty of kind of where I'm at right now, and I'm super excited about that. And I know I'll learn a lot from it. So yeah, I'm into it. That's 2025 for me, hopefully.
Bim, thank you so much for doing this. I really do appreciate it.
No worries.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Hopefully it's not another 5 or 6 years before.
Hopefully, man. Yeah, yeah, no, it was great. And it's good to have a little walk and get out of the office for a couple of hours.
Have a little walk and have a little talk with the creative.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, mate.
So yeah.